But part of my thing all the way through the summer and why I fancied this team so much was I just thought we've got really, really good players. And I think you can, the manager has obviously been unbelievably important in terms of what's gone on. But I think you can just have really good players. And last season we had really good players and we didn't win either game. So the reason why I think this game's really important is you almost get the moment of the synthesis between the really good players, but also the idea of how the new manager wants it to be a little bit different. And therefore those players putting this into action. And then everyone managing their emotions, everyone remaining calm. And then when the game's there, Liverpool take advantage. And Liverpool take it away from Manchester United. And ultimately, almost my moment of the season is half-time. I was there in 23-24 and I was there in 24-25. And in 23-24, I was stood next to Paul Senior. The half-time whistle goes and the first thing I say is, we could have done with getting a second there. We could have done with getting a second there. And in 24-25, the half-time whistle goes and I'm going with smoking cigars second half. And we were smoking cigars second half. We are... nothing goes on to happen in the game until we make it 3. And then they have a few forays that it's just sort of throwing the ball across our box, and Xerxes, who we now get to see, is just effectively like having moving an oven round on casters, and he nearly gets on the end of a couple, but there's nothing else that's really going on there. And if it had gone 3-1, watching it live, looking at the numbers afterwards, if it had gone 3-1, the likelihood is it would have finished. But if it had gone 1-3, the likelihood is it would have finished 1-5, not 3-3. At that point, for all their emotion would have been up, we would have just gone down the other end and dealt with them, and been absolutely ruthless and spectacular. And to me, that was the moment where you got to go. Also, the nature of the player who gets the 2 goals. What have we spent the summer, and for me even longer, sort of saying on and off, is that I'd like more input. More output out of Luis Diaz. I'd like more output. I get a lot of input. I'd like more output from Luis Diaz. Bang. Half-time at Old Trafford, everyone's singing his song because he scored the 2 goals that have put Liverpool ahead. When you look back on that opening goal, the way in which Jota directs the whole move, directs traffic all the way through, sends the lads to the back post, makes his run, that pulls all the United players out of shape. And for me, it was just in that moment, it's the end of the matter with Manchester United. Yeah. We go in half-time 2-0 up against Manchester United, and they are no longer any of our business. And I think there's nothing wrong with that being a moment of a season as well. Yeah. The moment where you go, well, these are a waste of our time.
Well, they're going to get their act together at some point, and you keep saying that they're going to get their act together at some point. And by beating them that handsomely, it was like, it wasn't just not today, lads. It was like, not this year, lads.
Not this year. And now you can maybe even extend that and say it's probably not next year either, because of where they've ended up. But having that sort of moment of, no, these were absolutely fine here. So I understood why you were nervous about it in the summer for all the contextual reasons, and also the fact that it is just Old Trafford. But it just sort of, it rang out to me as, we're in this properly. So this is before, Arsenal have looked as flawed as they've gone on to look in terms of the patterns of attack and play that I don't think have ever been right. This is before City obviously have had the Rodri injury. But all the way through the summer, my instinct was this season splits 1 of 3 ways, and fortune's going to play a part, and form's going to play a part, and our new manager's going to play a part. But it's 33% us, 33% Arsenal, 33% Manchester City, 1% some other bums that we don't know yet. And that's the way this is going to go. And that day, absolutely nailed on, that 33% was actually our worst case scenario. And I think that we've sort of taken that on and gone from there. And, as far as I'm concerned, it is a massive moment. As I say, if you want a literal second, it's when the half-time whistle goes and Liverpool have done the business. That is, to me, the key thing about it. It's why I love it. And then also everyone just has a lovely time second half. A lovely, lovely time. Our end just has an absolute ball, chatting to everyone immediately afterwards. And everyone was just, this is what it's going to be. This is the way in which it is. And at this point, we still haven't conceded a goal.
Yeah, that is fair. It is a huge moment, and I'm glad someone picked it, because, like Neil said, your season's always a little bit in the balance, and especially when the manager's changed over, and what group we were going to be in that season. Neil says there it could have gone sort of 1 of 3 ways, really, and the optimists among us, and I count Neil in that, we're saying we're up there with Man City and Arsenal, and sort of, let's say, I think some others might have thought, are we scrapping for the Champions League? I was a bit worried we'd end up a bit solidly third, and then maybe someone will sort of come and catch us, but I anticipated league-wise a sort of a similar season to the one we had the year before, largely because the squad was the same. And so, but that was a real statement of, well, a lot still to be defined, but we're certainly well above all these other teams, some of whom people on co-coms have been saying we'll finish above Liverpool this season, and all the best with that.
Yeah, I think it is interesting now, John. You reflect back on the season, but similar to you, I was going into it thinking, of course, you hope and you want Liverpool to have a really, really strong season and maybe challenge for the league. But it did, for me, seem like a big ask because of how the previous season had finished. And as you said, it's a new fella coming in. He's got to understand the kind of the terrain and the landscape and the players that he's inheriting and all that. And then you throw an Old Trafford in there in the third game. I know you referenced it before, that season where they go their third game. Seasons can get away from you very quickly.
Yeah.
If you start poorly, before you know it, it can just unravel a little bit. And listen, they get the win at Ipswich, they beat Brentford. Lewis Diaz scores that day as well. So you get a little bit of a glimpse that actually maybe there is a little bit more output. He's playing in a slightly different position. He's taking up different areas of the pitch. And then he goes and gets the 2 at Old Trafford, like Neil says. That did feel significant to me. But, even that year that you mentioned before, where United do beat us, they're on the back of getting battered by Brentford the game before that. So this match can just be one of them where it can take on its own little life, really. So you never quite know what you're walking into. But it became very clear very early on that Liverpool were just so superior. And that's how it plays out. Loads of people have great games. I remember Gravenberg just dominating it. He seemed like he had so much space, but they couldn't handle him. He was just breaking forward. He was, pirouetting away from people, and they just couldn't get near him. And he wasn't the only one. Lots of Liverpool players come off the park that day, having had 8, 9 or 10 out of 10 football matches. So, yeah, it did feel big.